If they running their mouth, then they looking for trouble. Ran right up in the knowledge, now they back in the huddle. See, they know we can fight, new content every week. Me and Dr. Clyde, keep on bringing the heat. Now they know that we driven, and they know we quitting. Yo, she ain't at the winner, keep on bringing the energy. Unity. See, they know we ain't stopping, and they know they got problems, and they ran out of options. If they know we got a problem, can't let it go unsolved. Bring back learner, Afrocentric history, we see tomorrow. Karma is karma, I say what I say, I hear underwater. Till I see I fall off, then I bring y'all up on note. I'm back up on my Clyde winners, 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 divine winters, Clyde winters, mind bender, Clyde winters, I'm Richard, ride with ya, master teacher, create masters, Clyde winters, give respect to the elder, Clyde winters. Somebody else that living for me. I told you somebody else that looking for me. I think there's somebody else that looking for me. I think there's somebody else that looking for me.
We have to live by my heart. We have to live by my heart. I have not done wrong. I have not robbed. I have not stolen. I have not drank. I have not told lies. I have not stolen food. I was not stolen. I have not fornicated with the fornicator. I have not caused anyone to weep. I have not dissembled. I have not transgressed. I have not discussed secrets. I have brought no lawsuits. I have not wronged the population. I have not struck dead. I have not transgressed the law. I have not been hunted. Except when I'm talking about on the tongue. I have not made extolling. I have not bragged. I have not cursed. I have not been violent. I have not confounded truth. I have not been impatient. I have not cursed against somebody else that living for me.
Dr. Winter's legacy is a testament to the power of knowledge and the unyielding spirit of exploration. His impact is felt worldwide, as he shares and enlightens at conferences, symposiums, and collaborative projects. His voice is a beacon in the academic world, challenging, inspiring, and always educating. His journey reminds us that the quest for knowledge is never-ending, and its impact is timeless. Dr. Winters teaches us to challenge the narratives and to learn with an open mind. As he always says, B1 is not a group, it's a lineage. Let his story inspire everybody to pursue knowledge relentlessly and to always seek the truth. Now let us welcome in the grandfather of research, the Trill OG himself, the Honorable Dr. Clyde Winters.
What up, though? What up, though? What up, though? How's everybody doing? You know, I'd like to welcome everybody to my, Black History Gems show, because you know why? Because I'm here to talk some history with you, family. Yes, history is very important. How you doing, Karen? You know, because see, it's that time of year. You know, a lot of us school programs are starting. Kids are back in school, and young adults are back at school and college. And so, how you doing, Joan? And what I like to do is I want to, in a sense, just try to really, go along with that theme. Earlier we discussed curriculum. Today I want to talk about some of the things that you can teach. And one of the most important periods in the history of foundational Black Americans was the Black Power period. And the Black Power period is very important because I'll always believe that if we wouldn't have been rioting in the 60s and burning down the cities and burning down parts of, the cities, that we wouldn't have got nothing. They wouldn't have gave us any more justice. I doubt if I would have went to college because my family didn't have money. My father, he did construction work. Okay, he worked pretty good, but I mean, considering how much it costs to go to college and things like that, I probably wouldn't have went to college if it wouldn't have been for us rioting in the streets. That's having a rebellion, and it's sad. A lot of people, in a sense, they want to believe, that that you can be successful in this country without really standing up. They want to believe that you can be successful in this country without fighting. That may be true for white folks. It may be true for Asians. It may be true for Latinos. But in relationship to foundational Black Americans, we have to fight. Our only success in this country has come from us fighting. And then a lot of people, every time you see Afro-Americans, foundational Black Americans, those Black Americans are always fighting, always argumentative. It's not that we're argumentative. Yes, we are always fighting, but that's because the fact is that the only time that we can get anything in this country, the only time that we can make people understand that we deserve justice and we deserve rights is through protesting. And not just protesting, it's going to the court. It's amazing. It is so amazing to me. And what's amazing to me is that, how you doing, David Howard? Shalom. What's amazing to me is just the whole idea is just to think that how we were slaves in this country for hundreds of years, even before the United States became, in a sense, a nation, when they were still a colony. Many of us were enslaved, chattel slaves. But even though we were chattel slaves, even though we are the Aboriginal people of this country, yes, we're the Aboriginal people. And even though we are the Aboriginal people, even though they've tried to destroy us, they've tried to delete us, we're still here. Even though they've created, in a sense, a system of racism, which is a race in which they guarantee that they're going to win. We've been able, in a sense, to even overthrow that whole idea of racism, because even though they want to hold us back, even though they want to keep us down, we still fight and we still move up. And that's very important. How you doing, Ray Ruder? How you doing? Greetings from the Netherlands. Yes, greetings from the Netherlands. It's very important to understand, in the sense that we're all over the place. We got to show greetings to the Black family and be one. Being Black first is the only way that we can have any type of presence, any type of respect in this country. You have to be one, because see, there is an epidemic. There's an epidemic of a disease called Cades, and Cades is culturally acquired identity immune deficiency syndrome. And this Cades, what it does is that it makes Black people lose their Blackness. And when they lose their Blackness, these people, in a sense, they do crazy stuff. Because see, you live in a system of racism. Whenever you catch Cades, and whenever you believe that you're just as good as a white person, that you're just as good as a white man or a white woman, you are defeated. You're saying, how can I be defeated if I think I'm just as good? You're defeated when you think you're just as good as a white person, because a white person does not believe, in a sense, that you're on the same level of them. They wouldn't have created this system of racism, this system of white supremacy, if they felt that they could compete with you on a fair grounds. So no, you're not equal to them. You're superior to them. And that's the only way we can do it. Karen, you're right. Karen, we need to stick together forever. They try to keep separating us. Yes, we need to stick together. We do. We need, in a sense, to always recognize our culture, always recognize our identity. But the fact remains, we can still get success without having total unity across the entire foundation of Black American population. You see? Yes, we can have unity. We can have success, because see, we have to, in a sense, understand that that's the only thing that can give us success. I'll agree, Karen. When you say that keep putting cream in our coffee, weakening us, that's true. Whenever you in a sense are marrying people outside the race, I don't think they can love you. And I hate to say this because there's many people who are married, and many people have white or Asian girlfriends and boyfriends, but they can't love you because it's impossible for them to love you. They can't love you because they've been conditioned to believe that you are an inferior to the rest of the people on this planet. They've been conditioned to feel that they need to denigrate you. They've been conditioned to feel they need to bring you down. They're conditioned to feel that you're inferior to them. You see, how can someone love someone who they feel is inferior? How can someone love someone who they feel is beneath them? That's the only reason that I say that Europeans and Asians can't love black people. Because, see, the most important thing you need in any type of relationship is respect. If you don't have respect from your mate, how do you hope to hold a family together? How do you plan to stay together? You see? But we're not going to talk about that today because that's just one of those things. What we're going to talk today is the Black Power movement, because the Black Power movement is a very important time. The Black Power movement, much of it took place when I was a teenager, and into my early 20s. But it was a very powerful time because it was a time of unity. It was a time of trust. It was a time that people really believed that we could accomplish something, and we accomplished a lot. Yes. People talk about the fact that before integration, we had our businesses, we had this, we had that. Fine, but I'm going to tell you. When people talk about the good old days, there's never been any good old days. What are you talking about? There's never been any good old days because your present days are the best days in your life. Therefore, I can't say that we did better in the good old days. You can't say you did better in the good old days. But what we can say is that by working together, by seeking, in a sense, justice, by seeking, in a sense, prosperity, wealth, and independence, that's how we can become, in a sense, successful in this life. Because no matter what we want to believe, critical race theory exists. White people hate you. White people want to kill you. And white people, in a sense, want to put you in a race and where you always lose. And although they've created this system of racism, although they want to kill you, we're still here and we're still strong. But let's get into this week's presentation. This week we're talking about the 1960s, the Black Power generation. This is one of the most important times that I really like the Black Power period. I was always kind of Black Power. When I was I graduated from the University of Illinois, and but I know you guys know I played football. I played defensive end in high school, and so I was recruited for a couple of schools. I was recruited by the University of Colorado, and I was so excited because that was the dream college I wanted to go to. Because I had two cousins. One of my cousins, Johnny, he was going to Kansas at the time, and my other cousin, Ernie, they went to Catholic schools. He was going to Missouri. He was going. He graduated in 1969 when I did. And he was going to Missouri. So when I was recruited by Colorado, I was so excited because I said, "Damn, all three of us would be playing in Big 8." It was a Big 8 back in the day, I believe. And so then I was so excited. But my coach, that asshole, because of the fact that he, it's bad when your coach don't like you, but because he didn't like me, he told him I was Black Power. Yes, he told the coaches at Colorado, Clyde, what's Black Power? And naturally, in a sense, they wasn't going to take a chance, because Black Power was being spread, and they didn't want any radical Negroes on their campus, so I didn't get that scholarship. But I went to Illinois and got to play a little football, there. So I was still happy. That's the whole thing about life is that, it's kind of funny that God gives you everything that you hope for. God gives you everything you plan for, you see. The only thing is that you got to be careful what you wish for. You see, you had to be careful what you wish for. You had to be careful what you think. Because, see, your thoughts, your words can create your experiences, you see. And if you want to have a lot of negative experiences, think a lot of negative thoughts. Move away from that stuff. But let's talk about the Black Power generation. Black Power, baby, that black fist, the fist is so important because, see, right now I want you to hold your hand up in front of your face. When you hold your hand up in front of your face and you can see through the fingers, you can see in a sense through the fingers. Yeah, it's kind of fragmented. It has a little solid space, but you can see through the fingers. But when you make that fist, baby, when you make that fist is a sign of unity. That fist is a sign of strength. And that's why we had the Black Power fist. And that's why, in a sense, Black Power was such a very beautiful time, very beautiful time. People were rioting. And I'm kind of sorry. A lot of you probably say, what were these Negroes doing? What were these Negroes doing back then in the 60s? How did they have the nerve? How did they have the nerve to feel that they could fight the United States military? You're wonderful. See, we didn't give a damn. We didn't give a damn. Yeah, I'll admit, in most households, if a man was in the house, they usually had a gun, usually a shotgun, maybe a shotgun and a 22 rifle because they used them for hunting. But most just about every home with a man in it had a gun, had rifles in it, and so then as a teenager, we felt that when the revolution started, we was gonna go to the gas station, fill up bottles of with gasoline to make Molotov cocktails because we felt that yeah, if they come in, they would have the weapons, but we felt we could take the weapons from them. We felt that when they came into the community, we would just every tank that came in, if we could come out of the tenements and stuff, we were gonna, cover them with Molotov cocktails and cocktails, and if the person in the sense they came out, we could go in there and get those guns. We were going to get the guns, even though we only had a few. When you're a teenager, you don't fear death. No, that word never crossed our mind. We never thought we were going to die. See, we only had on our mind that we were going to kill Europeans. We were going to get our liberation. We were going to get our freedom. Books to learn more about Black Native Americans and Black people in general. Get my book, History and Culture of the Black Aboriginals. In this book, I talk about the history of the Black Aboriginals in the United States. In my book, we're not just Africans, the Black Native Americans. In this book, I discuss, in a sense, of the Black Native Americans, but I discuss the Black Native Americans in relation to their interactions with African people. So we are not just Africans. It discussed, in a sense, the interactions between Aboriginal Blacks and African Blacks. Whereas in my book, A History and Culture of the Black Aboriginals, it deals, in a sense, with our history as the Aboriginal people in this country. Then my book, History of Blacks in America from Prehistory to 1877. This is a very important book because in this book, I give exercises. I show you how to learn your history. I present our history all the way up until maybe the 1980s, at least much of the 20th century, up to the 20th century. And then my book, History of Blacks in America from Prehistory 1877. You got a lot of little things, a lot of exercises. You can use this book not just in a sense to learn your history, but you can also teach yourself your history because I have exercises in History of Blacks in America from Prehistory 1877 that you can use to further your understanding of who and what we are. I want you to also, Yoshimod the Genius. Yes, Yoshimod the Genius. His brother makes beautiful videos, and I've shown a lot of his videos. I don't want to show them today because when I tried to go, they tried to send a virus to my computer, so I'm going to avoid, the internet for a little while. But I'd like you to go and maybe buy Yoshimod's book. Yoshimod has written a book, and this book is called The Bloom. You can get Yoshimod's book, The Bloom. It's on it's at Amazon.com. Check out this book. In this book, you're going to meet Sister Andito, a kind and magical goddess who loves nature, music, and helping others. In this special book, you'll read fun stories about how she makes flowers grow, rivers flow, and hearts feel happy with her music. Sister Andito shows us that we all have a little magic inside, and with kindness and love, we can make the world a brighter place. Join her on this exciting journey and discover the magic within you. Again, this book is by Yoshimod the Genius. It's a bedtime story for the young at heart. Get this book. It's a beautiful book, very beautiful book. You can order this book at Amazon.com. My copy's in the mail, and I'm looking forward to reading this, and you should look forward to reading it too. Those who have no record of what their forebears have accomplished lose the inspiration which comes from the teaching of biography and history. Yes. That was written by Carter G. Woodson. Carter G. Woodson is following in the footsteps of another brother, an African jihadist or an African educator, and his name was Usman Dan Fodio. That's one of the reasons why I call him an institute that I founded, and the Usman Dan Fodio Institute is that Usman Dan Fodio felt that the best way for people, in a sense, to learn their history and for children to learn their history is to be taught about, characters from their history who were great, characters from their history, in a sense, who strive for success, characters from their history who had, in a sense, a great character, who, in a sense, were righteous people. And I think that this is something that we have to understand. And so when Carter G. Woodson said, those who have no record of what their forebears have accomplished lose the inspiration which comes from teaching a biography and history, he was saying the exact thing. We had to teach our children about our heroes. And by teaching our children about our heroes, Harriet Tubman and others, we're teaching our children that there've always been a spirit among foundational Black Americans, a fighting spirit, which led them, in a sense, to seek truth, understanding, and fight for their justice. But we also understand that people have lied about us. People have made up lies about us. People have made up lies, in a sense, to hold us back. They said that foundational Black Americans are lazy. Foundational Black Americans are always confrontational. Foundational Black Americans, they lie. But these are just lies. But see, people use the big lie because of its power. The German propagandist Goebbels noted that, and I quote, "If you tell a big lie enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it. The lie can be maintained only for such time as the state can shield the people from the political, economic, and military consequences of the lie. It thus becomes vitally important for the state to use all of its power to repress dissent, for the truth is the mortal enemy of the lie. And thus, by extension, the truth is the greatest enemy of the state." Yes. The true history of foundational Black Americans is an enemy to these United States. It's an enemy to these United States because when you know the true history of the United States, you know that American culture is foundational Black American culture. There was foundational Black Americans who built this culture. It's foundational Black Americans who built this country. The Europeans couldn't build it on their own. They needed us, but they teach the big lie that it was them, it was the immigrants who founded and made this country better. That's a lie. All the immigrants did was come in and try to suppress, those Black people who were enslaved on the plantations and those Black Aboriginals who sadly, in a sense, did not have any unity. And it was our Black Aboriginal ancestors that really allowed this country to be stolen, because instead of those Black Aboriginals fighting each other, they should have been fighting those migrants. They should have been fighting, in a sense, those explorers. They should have been fighting those Europeans. Oh, but they didn't want to fight the Europeans. Oh, but every time they saw another Black person, they were out there to cut their throat. They're out there to fight each other. We are sad people. And we are a sad people because we fight each other and allow outsiders to come in and dominate us, then and now. FBA history is a study of a great past. Get my book, The Mandy in Ancient America. In this book, I talk about the Mandy influence, you see. Get my book, the Black Neanderthals and the White Race. In this book, it'll tell you how Black people, in a sense, how white people originated. That white people, in a sense, are really Caucasians, not white Arabs, but Caucasians, sadly, evolved in the Cades. Get my book. Get my book, Black History Gems Essays 1 and Black History Gems Essay 2. And these books, I'll give you various world aspects of Black world history, but the most important book that every Black person should have in their home is the World History of the Black Race. Yes, the World History of the Black Race. In the World History of the Black Race, I discuss the history of every Black civilization on every continent in a survey format. This book can be used as a world history text, a Black world history text. Get these books. Our group self-interest is B1. Yes, our group self-interest is being B1. The greatest myth about the native Black Americans is that we all come from Africa. No, we did not all come from Africa. We, in a sense, were already here. That's why if you want to know more about how we were already here, get my book, History and Culture of the Black Aboriginals of the United States. Get this book, History and Culture of the Black Aboriginals, so you can know our true history. What is it? You know, they've written these books and they've always been trying to put in front of our face the truth, and yet they still teach us a lie. For example, look here. Here's what is the third race and what are its characteristics? They say, oh, the American or Indian race found only in America is of a deep copper color, straight black hair, high cheekbones, eyes, black and sunken large faces, and robust bodies. Oh, yeah, that's the American Indian. Yes. Then they said, what race is the African and Negro race? They have a jet black skin, no narrow forehead, black woolly hair, thick lips, and long heels. This is all bullshit. Look at those pictures. Look at those pictures. The only difference between these pictures is that they made, in a sense, the American a little bit more light-skinned and put some feathers in his hair. But if you notice, they were both of the same person. They were both of Black people. Don't you get it? The big lie is that you are, in a sense, a person only from Africa. The big lie is that your nationality is Africa. They want you to think about being African. They want you to always aim for Africa. They want you to always be influenced by Africa because they don't want you to know that this is your land and they owe you your land that they stole from us. See? They stole this continent from us, but we helped them in a way because we were fighting among ourselves. And that disunity allowed them, in a sense, to be able to dominate us and take us over. You know, who are we? You see? You know, Dr. Claude Anderson, he said that we were the Native Americans. Yes, we're the Native Americans. We were the only Americans in this country. But see, when you say Native Americans, you can't say that because the red people have already taken that identity as the Native Americans. And so what we had to do is that even though we're the original people, we had to, in a sense, follow the teachings of Tariq Nasheed. And his teachings are that we're the foundational Black Americans. Because see, by calling ourselves foundational Black Americans, we still, in a sense, address our Aboriginal origins. But we address our Aboriginal origins and also identify ourselves as the people who founded the United States. Yes, who founded the United States of America. What is FBA? FBA is not a group. FBA is not an organization. FBA is a lineage. A lineage is lineal descent from an ancestral pedigree. As a result, we are descendants of the African, Black Europeans, and Aboriginal Blacks who built the United States. Black power, baby, Black power. That was the same back in the 60s, back in the 70s. This was a time when Black people were just fed up, and we decided it was time to stop the nonsense. We decided it was time to, hey, U.S. government, give us what we deserve. U.S. government, Give us our justice. U.S. government, give us what we've worked hard to get. And they didn't want to give it, so black people had to go out in them streets. They had to go out on those rooftops. They had to throw Molotov cocktails. They had to burn down things. People say black people during the riots destroyed their communities. Hell, what the hell? We didn't own shit in the community. What the hell do we? What the hell do we feel? What do we feel about burning down a white man joint? Because see, it's sad to say, but in the black homes, the white man owed you something. You were taught that the white man owed you something because even back then in the 60s, we knew that they owed us for that labor that we had spent. They owed us for the land that we had took. And so black power was that whole idea that I'm tired of taking this stuff. I'm tired of being mistreated. If it takes burning down the cities to get your attention and I get my justice, then we burn the city down, baby. Black power, baby. Black power. The African and Indian slaves did not submit to slavery without a fight. Many blacks ran away from the plantations and formed their own communities. Herbert Aptheker in American Negro Slave Revolts listed 250 revolts against the white man. Yes, 250 revolts. They only teach you about three. Prosser, Nat Turner. You know, I only teach you three in the schools, but it was really 250 revolts. That's not counting the times that when a white man, in a sense, raped a black woman, that she might put glass in that white man's, drinks, and then white man food to kind of hurt him, or when a white man raped a black woman, and the black woman and some of the brothers on the plantation would set the house on fire. Yes. Don't believe that black men and black women were just so submissive. The first Maroons fought whites in 1526. In 1526, blacks overthrew the Spanish colony of Lucas Vasquez de Ayllón. Even though there were 500 Spanish and only 100 blacks in the colony, along with their Indian friends, returned to Haiti. One of the greatest centers of black Maroonish was the Great Dismal Swamp. Between 1700, yes, think about this, 1700 and 1856, thousands of Maroons lived in the Great Dismal Swamp, which was part of Virginia, North Carolina. The first Maroons to settle the Dismal Swamp lived on an island in the marshes called Messix, a dry and high part of the swamp. The Great Dismal Swamp Maroons were both runaway slaves and freemen. It was a major route on the Underground Railroad. Think about that. For 156 years, black people had a center, their own center in a sense, of civilization in the Great Dismal Swamp. And the white folks couldn't come in and take them down. Over 156 years, they had their own businesses, their own settlements, you see. Yes. They had their own independent state for 156 years in the Great Dismal Swamp. Maroons were black Indians and black Africans. The earliest battles between the Maroons and the Europeans were the Yamasee War. But they had other wars. But the Yamasee War was a more inclusive war. And this Yamasee War, look at this. Look here. Here you can see, in a sense, the white man, and he's fighting black people with red bandanas, red scarves on their head, black people with kufi hats, and also black people with turbans. So as you can see, the Aboriginal blacks were a mixed group. I remember I was talking about the fact that when the European came, he found many black Muslims and black Hebrews. And then people said, Dr. Winters, how did the black Hebrews and black Muslims come here? We forget, in the sense that black people have never been afraid of the sea. Black people had their own boats. And these black people, in a sense, they come here and they had established their own communities. I'm not saying that all the Aboriginals were Muslims or Hebrews, but there were selected groups of people who lived in the Americas who were Muslims and Hebrews. You know, and then everybody's heard about the Seminal Wars. And the Seminal Wars are a very interesting war, because these wars were fought down in Florida and Georgia. And these wars were basically between black Maroons and some of the Red Indians, and they were very successful in their wars against the whites. Black power, baby. Hold up your fist, hold it in the air, and right now say black power. Say black power. Why say black power? Say black power because we still fighting for justice. Say black power because we still fighting for truth. Say black power because black power run it by me. You are prisoners of war. And this is what Neely Fuller taught us. He said, if you do not understand white supremacy, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Yes, yes, yes. You have to understand white supremacy. The idea that white people feel they're superior to you. The idea that they've created, in a sense, a critical race theory, and that critical race theory maintains that they hate you. They want to kill you, and they created a race to hold you back. Yes, a race to hold you back. Nelly Fuller taught us what? The purpose of studying Black history is not to find out how great you are. It is to find out what mistakes were made that put us in our current situation. Yes, yes, yes. This is how you had to look at history. You had to look at history and see how it can be, in a sense, used for your benefit. The biggest benefit of knowing your history is that it helps you to fight Cades. What is Cades? Cades is culturally acquired immune deficiency syndrome. And when a person gets Cades, they forget their Black identity. They lose their ability to fight whiteness, and they begin to think they're white. And when they begin to think they're white, you lose, because, see, when you think you're white, then you're looking at yourself as an inferior, because white people feel inferior to you. If white people didn't feel inferior to Black people, they would not have created a system of racism. If white people didn't feel inferior to Black people, they would not have invented the system of white supremacy, because both racism and white supremacy were established to make sure that Black people feel that they cannot compete against the white man on an equal playing field. They were made, in a sense, because the white man knew that he could not compete with you. He knows, in a sense, that everything is equal, like in sports where everything is equal, baseball, football, tennis, golf. We always, in a sense, become the best. So do you think that when they can see that whenever we're put on an equal basis with them, whenever we're allowed to compete on an equal playing field, they feel they're going to lose, so they can't allow that. They can't allow total equality, because in allowing total equality and justice, then therefore they would lose. So they have to, in a sense, establish racism and maintain a system of white supremacy to keep you down and keep themselves up. Although many FBA see the importance of knowing our Aboriginal history, we still recognize that we must accept and promote our ancestry as Africans to exist in unity with ourselves as B1, Black first. Today, some Black people, in a sense, due to self-hate and ignorance, hate being Black and an African. As a result, they claim to be anything else but African. They call themselves Native Americans, I'm Asiatic, I'm Christian, I'm Protestant, I'm Jew, but I'm not Black. These dumb Negroes are trying to make a revision of Black American history, you see, because they often suffer from Cades. Again, what is Cades? Culturally acquired identity immune deficiency syndrome. They've lost the ability to fight whiteness, and instead they've given over to whiteness and have strong feelings of inferiority. There is first sight consciousness. First sight consciousness means, in a sense, that we continue to carry on cultural actions, cultural behaviors, that we have always had, even prior to the European. A good example of this first sight consciousness is Noble Drew Ali, the founder of the Moorish Scientists. He continued the tradition of wearing Moorish military garb, going back to the colonial period of the United States. On the left-hand side, we have Noble Drew Ali, who was in a sense, and he started the Moorish scientist group here. And this was taken in 1900, early 1900s. And then on the right-hand side, we have a warrior, a black man who was fighting the Yamasee War, Native American. And he also wore the turban. He also wore the Arabic garb, the Muslim garb, you see, or associated with Muslims, you see. This is what we call first sight consciousness. And first sight consciousness simply means that we still have these identities. We still have these identities that we can reflect upon and that appear today as they were in the past. Black Power demanded that the FBA individual have Black pride and a positive self-esteem. A person suffering from Cades, culturally acquired immune deficiency syndrome, is no longer a proud Black man or woman due to their acceptance of white supremacist tenets that Black historical and cultural values must be rejected in favor of feelings of inferiority, empty self-esteem, and being subservient to Caucasians, cultural and historical values. You see, when Cades manifests among African American people, Black people, foundational Black Americans, they lose all sense of who they are. But it's Black power, baby, Black power, that allows them to know and who they are. The letters Cades mean culturally acquired immune identity deficiency syndrome. Cades has caused much destruction in the African American community. Cades is the psychological equivalent to the AIDS virus. Yes. This is an infectious mental illness that causes the individual to lose his or her immunity to white, second frequency mental domination of their mind and loss of identity, as noted by Joan Coromante. You know, she's a member of my Patreon, and she's also in the chat. This is a very, very strong and determined sister, and a very thoughtful sister. Joan is very thoughtful. She's very instructive, and she's a symbol of that power that the Black woman always shares with the Black man. A person suffering from Cades is no longer a proud Black man or woman due to their acceptance of white supremacist tenets. That Black historical and cultural values must be rejected in favor of feelings of inferiority, empty self-esteem, and being subservient to Caucasian cultural and historical values. When they manifest among an individual foundational Black Americans, he's armed. Yes, yes. The only thing that can save us is Black power, baby. Black power! Understanding who we are, having our own identity, wearing our own, in a sense, native garbs, wearing our braids, wearing our dreadlocks, wearing our afros, wearing our natural hair. These are the only things that can allow us, wearing jewelry, wearing garments in a sense that reflect our independence, that reflect our rejection of Caucasian and European culture. These are the things that allow us to be who and what we are. Yes, 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 yes. You fight for strength. You fight for power. You fight against injustice. That's being foundational Black American. You know, the aim of knowing your history is to strengthen your cultural awareness of Black and African people so you can have the self-awareness and confidence to fight Cades. Afrocentrism is the ideational code Blacks can use to conceptualize the universe in which they live and interact. Culture can be defined as man's learned accumulated social experience, including man's art, belief, customs, knowledge, law, and morals that are transmitted and shared by a social group. In general, culture refers to a system of learned ideas, not what we do or make. Yes, yes, yes. And that's why, in a sense, the European is constantly, in a sense, trying to denigrate our culture, and then also trying to, in a sense, make us practice what they call a ghetto culture. Look at all these Glorilla, and look at Sexy Red. They have these sisters, Sexy Red talking about her vagina smell. Get out of here. That's just so ignorant. They're going around always popping their coochies and always twerking and always, in a sense, talking and having nasty and very, very non-ladylike themes. But this is what they're trying to impact on us. This is what they're trying to give us as a culture. But we're fighting this. They're trying to give that to our children. They're trying to make these immoral activities of these women, many of them immigrants the daughters of immigrants make it appear as though that's black culture. It's not black culture. That's not black culture. That's a culture of people, in a sense, who come from an immigrant background, people, in a sense, who feel that the only way they can make it, in a sense, is by selling their coochie, by living a ratchet lifestyle, you see. You know, we have a culture of sophistication, a culture in a sense in which our women are ladies, Aretha Franklin, Dionne Warwick, Diana Ross. Get out of here with that ratchet, negative behavior. Community events determine how we view ourselves in the society of foundational Black Americans. It was Stokely Carmichael or Kwame Ture. Yes, this brother was of Caribbean heritage. I mean, even Minister Farrakhan, he has his parents, his background is Caribbean, but they still understood Black power. They still understood that we have to fight to get our justice. We had to fight for the power on this land, you see. You don't see it. You didn't see Jamaicans, and you didn't see Trinidadians, and you didn't see other people in the Caribbean trying to fight for justice. I mean, in many parts of the Caribbean back in the 60s and 70s, it was against the law to wear an afro, and they might put you in jail if you talked about Black power. That's just to show how many people had been so demoralized, so colonized, that they couldn't even see themselves. Black power, baby. Black power. Malcolm X or Malik El-Haj Shabazz. Malcolm X or Malik El-Shabazz was the initial spokesman for Foundational Black American Unity. He taught Foundational Black Americans that they were a unique people who were not sick because of what they had done to themselves. They were sick and tired of the conditions they lived in as a result of the racism and hate whites directed at them, the hate that whites directed at us. Malcolm X made FBA realize they were an African people and that they were part of the world, which was dominated by Blacks, not whites. His assassination in 1965 made it clear to the baby boomers, my generation, who were race conscious and not suffering from Cades, that whites would do anything to keep FBA divided and without leadership. Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture, born Stokely Sanford Churchill Carmichael, he was born in Trinidad. This was a fighter. He wanted, in a sense, for Black people to understand that they needed to have power. And the only way we could get power, Black power, was in a sense, the desire to fight for our freedom, to fight for our justice. He's one of the earliest founders of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC. He was a member of the Black Panthers organization also. In 1967, it was Ture who gave his first Black Power speech. It was this Black Power speech which led to us to call our movement in the 1960s and 70s the Black Power movement. FBA music in the 1960s and 1970s promoted Black identity. You had James Brown, he made the movie, say it loud, dup, dup, I'm Black and I'm proud, dup, 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 dup. Then you had, in a sense, Curtis Mayfield. Oh, yes. Curtis Mayfield? Nah, not Curtis Mayfield. You had, in a sense, the Impressions. And what the Impressions did is they made, if I had a choice of colors, which one would I choose, my brother? If there was no black or white, badass song. And then don't forget, oh, yes. And what about, in a sense, Nina Simone? Nina Simone, when she made her beautiful song, We Are Black, and boom. It was just so beautiful, As a result of the music and community activities, we accepted the reality we were Black and popularized soul music, soul food, and etc. Black Panthers. Bobby Seale and Huey Newton founded the Black Panthers in Oakland, California. The Black Panthers did not believe in nonviolence as a strategy for foundational Black Americans to obtain freedom. The Black Panthers believed FBA should be armed and, if necessary, use violence as self-defense. In the 10-point platform of the Panthers, it was noted, we want freedom. We want power to determine the destiny of our Black community. We believe that Black people will not be free until we are able to determine our destiny. Yes. You have to want to determine your destiny. The Black Panthers established many social programs, such as schools, free lunch and breakfast programs, and meals on wheels for seniors. It was the baby boomers who carried out these programs in cities across the USA. As a result, when someone says the baby boomers did not participate in the FBA quest for freedom and justice, they are lying. Yes, yes, yes. It was the baby boomers who in a sense, were members. Yeah, we were kind of young. We were teenagers, but we were the ones who were joining the Black Panther Party and things like that. John A. Williams. This man wrote one of the most important books of the 1960s. In 1967, the novel The Man Who Cried I Am was published by the foundational Black American writer John A. Williams. His book is about Max Reddick, a journalist who learns about a secret government plan to exterminate all 22 million foundational Black Americans in the event of a national insurrection, riots, that might turn into a civil war. Yes, yes. This book, The Man Who Cried I Am, I read this book and I had to admit that it even influenced me back in the day. But I saw in it, not just in the sense, this whole idea about the King Alfred plan, but I like the fact that he talked about Black history and what we should do with it. In The Man Who Cried I Am, Max discovers a briefcase left by his friend Harry Ames, also a news reporter, that contained the King Alfred plan, which explained how the government would carry out the plan. When it was published in 1967, FBA insurrections took place in Boston, Detroit, Newark, New Jersey, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, and Tampa, Florida, where the local police had to assault foundational Black American women and men to end the uprising. The King Alfred plan was very important. The King Alfred plan stated there were over 600 prison camps in the United States, all fully operational and ready to receive prisoners. They are all staffed and even surrounded by full-time guards, but they are all empty. These camps are to be operated by FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, should martial law need to be implemented in the United States. And this was their plan. So, Black people said, damn, let's turn it out. You see. But they had the King Alfred plan. But see, let me explain to you, family, is that, yes, they would like to put us all in concentration camps. But over the past 500 years, they've tried to wipe out Black people. But it's too many of us. In fact, we're the majority of the population of the United States. Stop this shit about a minority. They teach you this issue that you're a minority. You're not a minority. There are hundreds. There's over 100 million at a minimum of Black Americans, native-born Black Americans in this country. Stop. That's why they always want to make you feel that you're a minority. Why do you think that the apartheid government came from South Africa over to America to learn how to dominate their Black people as a majority in South Africa? Think about this, family. Why would South Africa come to learn how to dominate a majority Black population if we were the minority population in America? Don't get it twisted. We've always been the majority population in America. We were the Aboriginal people. Then the Aboriginal people was joined by sub-Saharan slaves and Black European slaves. Damn, we've always been the majority. See? But you think that minority shit and that holds you back. Given the uprising in foundational Black American ghettos and the CIA, Army Intelligence, FBI surveillance, FBA leaders, and the increasing attempts of the FBI to neutralize organizations advocating Black power, like the Black Panther Party, led many baby boomers to believe the King Alfred plan was not a fictional story made up by Williams. Yes, we believed it was real, but an actual federal government plan to exterminate foundational Black Americans. As you might imagine, The Man Who Cried I Am became a bestseller. And people need to read this book today because they still want to kill us off. They still want to get rid of us. The only problem is it's too many of us. They had riots all over the place, especially in 1968. In 1968, Martin Luther King was murdered. Black state riots across the country after the assassination of Martin Luther King. You had riots in Washington, D.C., Chicago, Baltimore, Avondale, Cincinnati, Ohio, Kansas City, Missouri, Wilmington, North Carolina, Wilmington, Delaware, Louisville, Kentucky. Yes, riots all over the place because Black people were mad. Black people said, damn, what? If you're not going to even listen to Martin Luther King and he's talking about peaceful demonstrations. He's talking about we'll come and let you whoop our ass, but give us justice. Then we may as well forget about that peaceful shit, and we should just go out and just start, burning down stuff and blowing up stuff and shooting up stuff. And I'm so glad we did those riots, because that's how I got to college. That's where I found a good job as a teacher. And that's why today I have a nice pension. You see? Because we fought for what the hell we got. We didn't get shit. They've never given you, as a foundational Black American, anything. Everything we have, we fight for it. You fight for it. In the ISIS papers, The Keys to the Colors, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing doesn't specifically focus on the riots of the 1960s, but based on her broader arguments about love, self-respect, and resistance to oppression, one can interpret these events through her lens. Welsing views acts of resistance, including rebellion against systemic racism, as expressions of self-love. Yes, you didn't know that, did you? Did you know that? That when we were resisting in the 1960s and having rebellions or so-called riots, that was an expression of self-love and love for the community. Yes. The riots in foundational Black American communities during the 1960s, such as those following the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King, and the frustrations over ongoing racial injustice, can be seen as demonstrations of love in the following ways based on Welsing's ideas. The riots were fueled by a deep frustration with systemic racism, economic inequality, and police brutality. In Welsing's framework, these uprisings were a collective rejection of the dehumanization imposed by white supremacy. By standing up against oppressive forces, African Americans were asserting their dignity and self-worth, which is an expression of self-love. Yes. When we're rioting, when we're fighting to protect our communities, when we're fighting in a sense to get justice, that is an expression of self-love. In a way, FBA saw the riots as an act defending the community. For Welsing, love is tied to protecting and empowering the community. The riots, though often destructive, were also acts of defense against the continual assault on Black lives. By resisting injustice, even through violence, these communities were expressing a fierce love for their survival and their right to live freely. Yes, you didn't know that, did you? You didn't know that. You didn't know that in fighting for justice and fighting for our rights, that you are showing love, baby, love. The riots were a collective expression of pain and demand for change. Welsing argues that love involves confronting and healing from the wounds of oppression. The riots were a form of collective expression of pain caused. They were a demand for love from a system that denied it to Black people. Love in the form of equality, justice, and dignity. Yes. Equality, justice, and dignity. That shows love. Come on, Dr. Welsing. Teach us. From Dr. Welsing's perspective, the 1960s riots can be viewed as a complex, yet powerful demonstration of love. Love for self, love for the community, and for a future free from oppression. Yes. 1968 Olympics. The idea of Black national was popularized among baby boomers after the 1968 Olympics also. The FBA sprinters, Tommy Smith and John Corliss, were medalists in the 200-meter run at the 1968 Olympic Games. When the national anthem was played, they stood with their heads lowered and black gloves fixed raised in the Black Power salute to protest white supremacy and the racist, unfair treatment of FBA in the United States. Yes, they suffered. Tommy Smith and John Carlos for years couldn't get jobs, and they were mistreated. They even, I think one of them even lost his wife and everything because of the pressures put on them for fighting for Black people. But they didn't care. They still stood up for us. They still stood up for us. Think about that. You don't always want to just fight, but sometimes you got to fight for the greater good. Sometimes, you got to, in a sense, suffer for others, in a sense, to progress. Yes, when these brothers stood on that platform, when they held their hands up high, when they had that black fist in their heads, Lord, was to show the pride in who we were, and that we had to fight for our rights. We had to fight for our self-determination. We had to fight, in a sense, for our justice. Yes, yes, yes. You see. You know, there was a consequence to this. They suffered. They were blacklisted. They were banned. Their marriages collapsed. You see? And yet they had the power, they had the strength, they had the determination to say that we have to do this, we have to stick together, because it's only by sticking together that we can only get justice for our people, justice for our communities. Black power, baby. Black power. That's why whenever we seek for truth, whenever we seek for justice, we have to hold our fists held high and we have to shout black power, because it's only by seeking black power that we can find justice. That doesn't mean that we have anything against white folk. Forget them. But we want to have black people to be treated fairly. We want to have black people to be given their rights. We want to have black people to get all the justice that we're denied every day. You see, the red, green, and the black. The red, green, and the black. Black for our blackness, for being a black people. Red for the blood we shared. Green for the prosperity that we try to give each other by fighting and seeking justice for the black race. The red, black, and green. Black power, baby. Black power. The riots were also bad for the image of the USA in the world. The events after the murder of Martin Luther King made it clear globally that the United States may not be the center of democracy in the world as it portrayed itself abroad. Black nationalism was the idea that foundational black Americans should have the right to self-determination. Foundational black boomers, baby boomers, felt it was time they went into action to fight for their rights and justice. The youth began to make protests in their high schools and the public arena to demand better treatment and socioeconomic opportunities. Yes, that's what we did. To achieve black power, many baby boomers began to read the work of Fanon. They read his work because many black baby boomers who believed in black power believed that the ghettos they lived in were treated by the police the same way settlers treated the populations they colonized. This was an apt way to explain the government's treatment of FBA, because the vast majority of FBA were descendants of the Aboriginal Black Indians who were living in North America when the British colonized USA. You know, when I would walk down, I learned about the white supremacy, and I had this idea that we were colonists, because when I went to high school and I started getting taller, you can't imagine all the times I was stopped by the police just walking down the street. Hey boys, come over here. Then they'll throw you up against a police car. And then they'll always be searching, patting you down. I think they're just trying to fill in your ass or something. They're just patting you down. Okay, keep going. Okay, you can go. You see, back in when I was a teenager, the police used to carry shotguns in their cars, but they stopped that because when they had the riots, sometimes the brothers would attack those cars, get those shotguns and shoot the police or whatever. So they stopped carrying shotguns in police cars because black people, would tell them and turn them on the white officers. Frantz Fanon's concept of colonialism, particularly as described in his works Black Skin, White Mask, and The Wretched of the Earth, offers a powerful framework for understanding the riots in African American communities during the 1960s. Fanon's analysis of colonialism focuses on the psychological, social, and economic effects of oppression on colonized people and how they respond to this dehumanization, which can be applied to the situation of foundational Black Americans facing systemic racism in the United States. Fanon viewed colonialism as a system of domination in which the colonizers dehumanize the colonized, reducing them to objects or subhuman beings. In the United States, African Americans, though not colonized in the traditional sense, were subjected to a form of internal colonialism through systemic racism, segregation, economic marginalization, and police brutality. The racial oppression that African Americans face closely mirrors the colonial relationship that Fanon describes, one where the oppressors maintain power through violence, psychological degradation, and economic control. The riots in the 1960s can be seen as a response to this internal colonialism. African Americans were reacting to years of exclusion from political power, economic opportunity, and social dignity, conditions similar to those experienced by colonized people in Fanon's analysis. Yes, that's why we like this. That's why we liked a lot of Fanon's work, because we recognize that we were, in a sense, a colonized people. Today, you have black mayors of many cities, but the fact remains, in a sense, is that although, in a sense, these black mayors may dominate the cities, you find that often the state government is very prejudiced against the cities. Often the state governments, in a sense, are very negligent in terms of giving the cities that are ran by black mayors adequate funds. And this results from the fact that although you might have a black mayor over a city, it's the state government that has the funds that has to be distributed to the cities to make everything work. So again, in a sense, we moved away from this whole idea of the black ghettos being colonized, but we still, in a sense, recognize that the state, which is really governed, in a sense, by the majority of the white people who make up the state government, really dominate, in a sense, much of what will happen in the cities. Fanon argued that colonialism causes deep psychological trauma and alienation in the colonized, leading to feelings of inferiority, anger, and frustration. Foundational black Americans similarly were subjected to years of systemic racism, leading to internalized oppression and feelings of powerlessness. The constant exposure to racial violence, economic deprivation, and social exclusion created intense frustration, which often manifested as rage. Right, as rage. The riots in this context can be seen as the explosive expression of the psychological damage caused by racism. As Fanon argues, violence becomes a way for the oppressed to reclaim their humanity and resist the dehumanization imposed on them. For many foundational black Americans in the 1960s, the riots were the assertion of our dignity and attempt to break free from the mental chains of systemic oppression. Fanon believed that violence was a necessary and inevitable response to colonial oppression. He argued that colonized people often resort to violence as a way of breaking free from the structures of domination and reclaiming their sense of agency and humanity. Yes, agents in our own existence. In The Wretched of the Earth, he explains how violence can be cathartic for the oppressed, helping them to purge their feelings of inferiority and reclaim their self-worth. The riots in foundational black American communities can be understood through this lens as an act of collective resistance. African Americans facing years of police brutality, economic neglect, and political exclusion turned to violence as a way to resist their continued oppression. While the destruction during the riots may have seemed chaotic, it was in Fanon's terms a response to the systemic violence that had long been imposed on black communities. Fanon believed that the colonized had to break free from the colonial mindset in order to truly liberate themselves. That's why foundational black Americans in the 1960s felt the civil rights movement and the subsequent riots were part of this broader struggle for liberation. Yes, we saw this as a way to liberate ourselves and to gain justice. The riots were not simply acts of anger, but also a rejection of the system that had long denied African Americans their full humanity. The uprisings can be seen as a demand for recognition, equality, and justice, an attempt to break the cycle of racial subjugation that mirrored the colonial experience. The riots reflected the desire to dismantle the structures of systemic racism and achieve true freedom, echoing Fanon's call for revolutionary change. Frantz Fanon's concept of colonialism provides a valuable lens for understanding the 1960 riots in the foundational black American communities. The riots were a response to systemic racism, economic exploitation, and social exclusion that mirrored the colonial experience. They were an expression of the psychological trauma caused by racial oppression, as well as an attempt to reclaim dignity and agency through resistance. In Fanon terms, the riots were a necessary step towards liberation from a system that had long dehumanized foundational black Americans. Yes. Black power, baby. You have to fight. You're only going to get justice. I mean, just like look what happened back in 2020 when after they killed George Floyd. Look at when black people started protesting, when black people went back to the streets. They started changing laws in many cities and many states. Many of the larger corporations started changing some of their racism. Yes, it didn't last long, and today we know they're trying to go back to trying, in a sense, to limit the opportunities of foundational Black Americans. But just as they're trying to go back on their word, just as they're trying to return to their you know activities to keep the foundational Black Americans in their place, to keep them down, we're still fighting for justice, and we're still fighting and going forward and trying to gain our freedom. Bobby Seale and Huey Newton founded the Black Panthers in Oakland, California. The Black Panthers now believe in nonviolence as a strategy. And they established many programs, and these programs were very important in terms of us. But there was a theoretical context to this whole Black Power movement, and the theoretical concepts came from the Black student movements. Then we have people like Asante in Afrocentricity, in his book, that allowed us to see that we have to, in a sense, have a more political context. And then we have the educational philosophers, like Amos Wilson. We also had, in a sense, Francis Cress Wilson, and also Asa Hilliard. And these were great theoreticians. They were not only, in a sense, educational philosophers and psychologists and psychiatrists, but these were people that gave us a theoretical basis to understand who we were, how we should fight for our justice, and why we should fight. Yes, there's nothing wrong with, in a sense, fighting for your rights. We need to know what happened to us to imbue in us amnesia relating to our loss of a Black identity. Yes. Just as we were capping off, just as we were moving forward, just as we had the strong sense of Black identity, Black pride, the government saw this as a negative. They did not want to keep Black people unified, so they began, in a sense, to fight against this unity. The FBI, they killed Martin Luther King, and they killed Malcolm X. They killed our leaders. They ran Kwame Nkrumah. Stokely Carmichael. They ran him out of the United States. And so then what we find, in a sense, is that we began to see that just by having leaders, that wasn't going to work. So the FBI, in a sense, they not only, in a sense, wanted to get rid of our leaders, they also wanted to destroy the Black communities. The attack on Black nationalism, the government had to make FBA forget about the Black Power movement. Yes, they wanted us to forget about the Black Power movement. They knew through our frustration, through our degradation, through our being mistreated, that a good way to do that was to introduce drugs. Many baby boomers became members of organizations like the Republic of New Africa and MOVE, the Christian Movement for Life in Philadelphia. Between 1968 and 1980, the FBI and other government agencies waged a war against the baby boomers who joined Black Power organization. Using drugs, and local police agencies led the FBI's counterintelligence program, COINTELPRO. They targeted Martin Luther King Jr., the Black Panthers, Republic of New Africa, us, MOVE, and other groups. According to Wikipedia, the COINTELPRO went against the activities to destroy Black unities. These activities included spying, wiretapping phones, making criminal charges on flimsy evidence, spreading rumors, and even assassinating prominent individuals, yes, like Black Panther Fred Hampton. By the mid-1970s, these actions helped to weaken or destroy many of the groups associated with the Black Power movement. Yes, they wanted to destroy the Black Power movement. They wanted to, in a sense, destroy this whole idea of Black unity. So they began, in a sense, to introduce crack, and this was kind of, in a sense, they would go and get the cocaine, the United States Central Intelligence Agency. They would use the money, in a sense, to support, negative processes in the Black community, and they what made crack so terrible is that the crack, you put up in Chicago, they call it Ready Rock, but you would put the crack, you would put it in a plastic container, as you can see in that middle picture. And, many people would light up this crack and they could smoke it. So it was the New York, the Time magazine said that was one of the most innovative, products of the 1980s and 90s. And because the fact is that they sold a product in a container that you could use to use the product, by lighting a fire and smoking it. So, it's very important. So this whole idea of crack cocaine and cocaine period was a way to destabilize the black community. And I have to admit, it was a success. Jamaicans were used by the CIA to spread crack. As crack cocaine gained traction in the USA, drug markets in the mid-1980s, Jamaicans began a killing spree. As many as 3,500 homicides between 1985 and 1992 were carried out by Jamaicans. So they could gain control of the crack network all along the eastern seaboard. Yes, yes, yes. This was the destruction of the black community. And they used tethers, yes. They used, in a sense, immigrants. They used immigrants to make sure that they kept the black population down, you see? And they kept the black population down by crack. And you just had to admit that it was an ingenious idea, and they were very successful, I remember back in the day when I was teaching in the 80s and 90s, a lot of my students, in a sense, were getting killed. A lot of them was getting capped, What cap was is that if anybody tried to, if anybody tried to not be legit, they would shoot you in the knees. And so a lot of young people back in the 80s and 90s were put into wheelchairs, because they had been capped. And that meant, in a sense, that they had been made crippled. I remember back in those days, like somebody dealing drugs, they could stand on the corner. You might steal, in a sense, their jackets if they had beautiful jackets. You might steal their tennis shoes, but you did not try to mess with that product. Because if you stole that product, if you stole that dope, then the rest of the game would come down on you. So it was a very hard time, kind of a scary time in a way, because you didn't even know if your classroom was going to be shot up. You didn't even know if some of your students might get killed. And as a teacher, it was kind of a little nervous because I was teaching high school around that time, And so we had so many things going on. We had the skyjackings. A lot of black people were getting out of the country as FBI came on them. You had the Republic of New Africa. They were going to start some programs to get us freedom. And then you had the Black Panther Party, who was carrying guns. And that was kind of very scary. That was very scary, in a sense, for white people, because they did not want to see a mass movement of black people armed to defend themselves. Yeah, black people have always been armed, like I told you. Even when I was growing up, we had a couple of rifles in our house, but they were mainly just hunting rifles. But see, they had to, in a sense, stop this movement of black people with guns. They always feared black people with guns. Especially the Justice Department was really apropos in terms of trying to destroy black movements. The leaders of many of these organizations were jailed on made-up charges or prosecuted by the courts after they engaged in confrontations with law enforcement officials who were either killed or injured. Some of these Black Power heroes who did not die in prison remain in prison to this day across the United States. And in 1978, the MOVE compound in Philadelphia was bombed by the police. This killed six MOVE members and destroyed 65 houses. Yes, it was all out war, baby. This is only a short account of the activities baby boomers participated in to make it possible for FBA to enjoy greater job opportunities, housing, and foundational Black American prosperity today. Granted, many people are not involved in the Black Power movement, but enough of us were to force the government to implement programs to benefit foundational Black Americans, such as free lunch and breakfast programs. Educational opportunities allowed FBA to get better jobs, and especially greater access to housing outside the ghettos and tenements we formerly lived in. Yeah. The Black Power movement helped us to be progressive, helped us to move into many places today. If you want to learn more about Black Americans and Black Native Americans, get my book, History and Culture of the Black Aboriginals. Randy Short, Dr. Randy Short, he's written a very good book too that can help you to understand what was going on back in those days. And this book is called Slavery's Mastery, Religion's Oppressive Bigotry, Unhinged. Get his book. It's by Randy Short. You can order it from Amazon.com. And my other books that deal with this period and the interaction between Aboriginal Blacks and Blacks generally is We Are Not Just Africans, the Black Native Americans, and my book, History of Blacks in America from Prehistory to 1877 is a book that you can use to not only learn history, but you can also use it as a book that you can teach history to your family. I think every home should have my book, History of Blacks in America from Prehistory to 1877, because in this book you can learn the history, and you can also, in a sense, they have various short exercises that your kids or you can use to learn more about our history and become more, in a sense, engaged in knowing who you are. Because, see, it's only through knowing your history that can help you to fight Cades. So get my book, History of Blacks in America from Prehistory 1877. That talks about our history our history and our origins. It's not just Aboriginal Blacks, but also, in a sense, European Blacks and African Blacks. Get these books. You can order these books at Amazon.com. Order them today. Get them in your hands. Come on now. And then also there's the book by Yoshimad, The Blossom. Please buy Yoshimad's book. We've been trying to make Yoshimad publish his book for years. Support Yoshimad. The book is called The Blossom, a bedtime story for the young at heart. Get this book by Yoshimad. You can get it, in a sense, at Amazon.com. In this book, you're going to meet Sister Andito, a kind and magical goddess who loves nature, music, and helping others. In this special book, you'll read fun stories about how she makes flowers grow, rivers flow, and hearts feel happy with her music. Sister Andito shows us that we all have a little magic inside, and with kindness and love, we can make the world a brighter place. Join her on this exciting journey and discover the magic within you. Yes, Yoshimad not only makes great videos. He's got go to yoshimad.gumroad.com and you can buy Yoshimad's videos. But now you can also buy Yoshimad's book by going to Amazon.com. Come on, get this brother's book. Support this brother. Thank you. Black Power, Black Power, Ungawa, Black Power, Black Power, Ungawa, Black Power. Yes, sirs. Yes, ma'am. Black Power, baby. Black Power. We got to be V1. You know, and just like Joan says, is that facts. They never had an accurate count of us, and they don't care about an accurate count because they know they can't do anything. They can't do anything but try to hold us back. They want to hold you back because they're afraid of us. They're afraid that when we know our true genius, when we know our true abilities, that we will lose, in a sense, this whole idea of trying to be like them. Because, see, if you be like them, remember, very important to understand, if you choose whiteness over blackness, that means, in a sense, that you're going to be inferior to whites because whites feel they're inferior to you. If white feel they're inferior to you, then by you wanting to be white, all you're doing, in a sense, is putting yourself in an inferior process. Joan wrote, "Thanks for the presentation, Doc. I'm a member of the Black Power generation, and too, many of our young people think we all did was march, sing, and beg for social integration. Black Power, Black Power, Black Power!" You're right, Joan. That's the whole point, is that people are fighting. And today, I'm proud of those young people in 2020 who decided they were going to go out there. Because, see, the thing is this, is that I'm sad to say this. I'm sad to tell you that if you don't stand up, if you don't fight, you'll get nothing in this world. Sorry, family, but the only way that you will get anything in this world is you have to stand up and you have to fight for the right to get these things, because they don't want you to have anything. They don't want black people to be recognized. They don't want black people to have everything, and yet they're doing everything in their power to stop us, Again, Yoshimad, the genius, is such a great person, and he's done so much. I hope that you will, support Yoshimad and his videos, and also get him to help you produce works of art, because Yoshimad is he is, in a sense, the genius. He's doing stuff to help us to know who and what we are. So go to yoshimod.gumroad.com. Support the brother, get his videos and other merchandise. Buy my book, Nationality and the Law. In this book, we discuss the importance of race and identity among many African Americans. I explore the genesis of the so-called blacks from an ethnogenesis of Black Irish, Black Aboriginals, and Sub-Saharan Africans. In this book, you will understand how they were separated into two races and why we call, in a sense, the Caucasian race the white race today. Buy my book, The Nationality and the Law. You'll enjoy it. Buy my latest book, History and Culture of Black Aboriginals in America. This is the first book that explains and discusses the entire history of how the original people who lived in the America were Black Aboriginals. These Black Aboriginals lived in many different tribes. They built stone pyramids. They built great cities. They built underwater bridges that linked both sides of the Mississippi River. Buy this book, History and Culture of the Black Aboriginals. Find out how many of us, most of us, just about all of us, who are blacks, native to America, have Aboriginal ancestors. Get this book. Learn about our history. Learn about our culture.
Metaphysical keys to unlock the door. A book written by with the kind of visions of Yoshimo. Ancient black spirituality, galactic celestial symphony, cosmic melanated energy, spiritual within me, our history. Ancient black spirituality, galactic celestial symphony, cosmic melanated energy, spiritual within me, our history.
Supplemental learning for your mini. But you can learn too. Don't send your mini into the belly of the beast unarmed. Courses, practical math, language, the code, our story and more. An institution founded by us, dedicated to us and our fight for justice. Here you will learn ways to combat the system using the same information they are trying to keep away from you. Welcome to FBA Sunday School.
Atlantis in Mexico. Atlantis in Mexico. Atlantis in Mexico. Atlantis in Mexico. Time travel in a book. Go far in a book. When is the last time you spent bread on a book? Knowledge given in a book. Benefit from a book. Create a movie from a book. Create animation from a book. Atlantis in Mexico. Atlantis in Mexico. Mexico.
What's up, everybody? It's Eve. Follow me on Twitter and YouTube for space recordings and special live programs. 2024, we're doing things a little different if you haven't peeped game by now. So yeah, this is your chance. You can do it now if you want. Hit the bell here on YouTube at JustEveB, or find me on X at Justice4 Just Us. That's JUSTICE 4 JUST_US. And if you feel so inclined, support my channel and the work we do over here. The Cash App and Patreon links are in the description. Black first.
Free your mind, let it go to the top, drop it to the floor. Take energy, come at like whoa. Spring water, how did that go? Free your mind, let it go. Tap in, go, let it nigga know. Hey, let it nigga know. Let it nigga know. Energy, come at like whoa. Spring water, how did that grow? Free your mind, let it go to the top, drop it to the floor. Energy, come at like whoa. Tap in, go, let it nigga know. Hey, she told me go and put it in her heart. I told her I don't wanna break it all apart. Let me be a night light in the dark. Hey, my nigga shine bright with the art. Gemini 2 time, know it's hard. Got the stars on the line with the charts. Big dog, so I gotta leave a mark. Free your mind, cause I'm all that smart. Hey, energy, got my light walk. Spring water, how did that grow? Free your mind, let it go. To the top, drop it to the floor. Hey, energy, got my light walk. Spring water, how did that go? Free your mind, let it go. Tap in, go, let it nigga know. Hey, let it nigga know.
Let the researcher do the research. Yes, let the researcher do the research. Dr. Clyde Winters, let him do the research. We need more researchers like Dr. Clyde Winters. Yes, yes, yes. Let the researcher do the research. Yes, we don't understand that it takes people who want to do research to be able, in a sense, to tell us our history. Yes, many people have taken my course, The Afrocentric Researcher. You can take it too. All you got to do is join. But if you don't, in a sense, join, understand that it's through your hard work, through your persistence, that you can become a researcher. Yes, yes, yes. Let the researcher do the researcher. You know what? I've written some books that can help you to be a researcher. Those books are Pathfinder, Clyde Winters in Search of the Roots of Afrocentric Studies. Yes, yes, this book is an important book. It'll help you learn all about your history. My other book is Afrocentric Researcher by Dr. Clyde Winters. This book, in a sense, is the most important book that you will find. What makes this book important is that the Afrocentric Researcher provides you with a course, yes, provides you with a course outline that tells you all the things you do to be a great researcher. Yes, get these books, The Afrocentric Researcher, and in a sense, get my book, Pathfinder. These books are the books you need to be successful, the books that will make you a great researcher. Get these books, but let the researcher do the research, but you can be the researcher too. Thank you for joining me for this presentation. Again, understand the 1960s, understand the Black Power period, understand this great period in our history. And when people talk about, that the baby boomers were cowards, that's a lie. We fought, but again, the European, he was successful. He's able, in a sense, to get us on crack, and that's what led to many of us losing. But our only way to freedom, our only way to truth, is we have to be B1. Be B1, baby. The only thing that can save you is B1, B1, B1. To fight Cades, you must stay black first.